if my audio drops out, and it isn't just me fumbling for my words, saying ums and ers, and there will be gaps of silence as well sometimes as I'm making notes. I got to focus on what I'm writing down. I started recording, so I'll just tell listeners right now, thank you for joining us once again for another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our special guest, Shaggy, and he's going to tell us about his dream. But first, I was explaining the process, and anyone who's watched the other videos may be familiar with it already. But what I want to go ahead and do is have you tell the dream from beginning to end chronologically, from falling asleep, the first thing you remember, to the last thing you remember before you woke up. And then I'm just going to listen and take notes. And then we'll go back and go through it again. I'll try and pick out or help you identify some more details. And then kind of in a way, a third pass through, or the analysis or interpretation phase between the two of us. We'll try and put together what makes sense about why this dream happened and what it might mean to you. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, good deal. So I'm ready when you are. I'll just listen patiently, quietly, while you begin at the beginning and tell us about your dream. Go ahead anytime.
Yeah, so how the dream started is more like, just kind of like fades in. Like I can just suddenly see myself running along down some destroyed streets and buildings and everything, sort of, if you've seen any images in like World War II or anything like that, destroyed buildings, especially in like Germany and pretty much just anywhere that the war had taken place at, anything that was destroyed and bombardments and everything like that. There are some buildings that were still standing, but most were crumbled or completely gone or destroyed. I don't entirely remember how I had gotten there. I just know that I was with a group of 5 other people, which I had assumed we were in a squad. We had started running up to this church that I had seen, that we had to set up like a forward operating base, they would call it. And we were also looking for something. I don't know if it was a person. I can't say it was a person because it was more like we were trying to search for something, but it wasn't a person. But anyways, it was something important. So me and the 5 other guys, we were going up it was like a long staircase up to this church. And I can just remember as we bust through the front doors of the church, half of us break off. One takes one side of the church, and I take the left side of the church. And as we're going down, we're clearing out the halls and everything, and I distinctly remember that one of the weapons I was equipped with was an MG42, which is one of my more favorite weapons of the World War II era. And we were just clearing out the hallways of enemies and just trying to make it to the main hall of the church, where everybody sits down, prays, and, you have a guy at the altar, speaks and does all that stuff. I'm not really a religious person myself. Kind of as of recently, I've kind of delved more into it, but I'm still kind of on the fence on it. I still believe there's a God that exists, or the possibility of a God that exists, but, hold on one second. Sorry, someone came into my room. So yeah.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So we're clearing out the halls and everything. I look outside one of the broken windows, and I could see that there were more people charging us, so I mount up and clear out those guys as the guy that had followed me down the left hall finishes clearing out the rest of the hall that we had gone down. We eventually make it to the main hall of the church and clear out that room, and what we were looking for wasn't there. How I knew that was just based off everybody's reaction and my own reaction. Like, I still didn't know what exactly we were looking for, but what we were looking for we couldn't find. And then soon enough, there's air raid sirens that can be heard off in the distance, and they get louder and louder. I look up, and this church is also pretty badly beaten up, has been, hit by maybe artillery, but it hasn't been completely destroyed. It's still standing fairly decently. I look up, and I can see through, flak fire and I'm pretty sure lightning, silhouettes of bombers, and before I knew it, everything went black, and then I woke up. I lifted my head up, and I'm in a golden church hall, sitting in one of the many seats that are there, more like benches. There were my members of the squad, and then a few other people I don't recognize. And then, of course, somebody at the podium. I wouldn't say the person at the podium is God or anything like that, but somebody who was explaining to us the next sequence of events that needed to take place in order for whatever to happen. Two people I remember got called up to that podium, and they seemed pretty ecstatic of what was going on. And after he finishes speaking with them, I had kind of kept my head down for most of the duration just because I don't know. I just didn't really feel like keeping my head up too much. I just kind of wanted to keep down and just be like, okay, well, whatever happens, happens, which is kind of how my motto has been throughout most of my life is whatever happens, happens. So anyways, he starts explaining to the rest of us how some of us are going to be sent back down who have survived the explosion, but some of us are going to be dead. And we'll pretty much come back and just kind of watch over the people who had survived, sort of like guardian angels, but not entirely sure how that works. I just know that eventually we got sent back down. I wake up back on the church grounds. The church was pretty much completely gone. And I could see my squad mates getting back up after the explosion, mostly unharmed. Nobody took any serious injuries. And I, start walking around, and I found my body laying impaled on a piece of rebar. Like, it wasn't all the way down. It was like kind of hanging halfway. Like my body was impaled halfway down the rebar. Impaled through my right chest, and dead, pretty much. My squad mates pretty much had seen it. They said their dues, and they were on their way because they had to make haste because they had the memory of speaking with whoever it was and knowing that they had a mission to complete. So at that point, I had just followed them, and as I was following them, keep in mind too, when I had came to, in a sense, it was daytime, the skies were clear mostly, the sun was just rising, and as everybody was moving on, the light just kind of got brighter, and then I had woken up. And that's pretty much most of what I remember. I know, but I typed down everything I had said before. When I speak it, it's harder to speak. I'm shy, obviously, so it's harder for me to speak things, but that's from what I remember.
So we went through your description and just listened. Fantastic. We went through a hell of a lot of details. To my mind, the details make all the difference. They make the important elements of the dream what actually happened. What did you see? So I get real specific on stuff. As I said, sometimes I rattle doorknobs. They don't come open. I could ask a bunch of questions that had nothing to do with nothing. And that's just fine. But it was all part of the necessary process. What I'd like to do now is just ask the person I'm talking to, having gone through it like that, having had a second person, a questioner, ask for those details and focus your mind on those visuals and bring them back into your conscious awareness. Do you now have an impression or a sense of what the dream might be about, what it might have been trying to tell you, what meaning there might be in it? Do you have something about it so that I'm not just putting my thoughts in your head when you've already got your own ideas?
Well, I did kind of only just realize it after finishing, how it kind of started off in like a very dark tone, how it, like I said, it kind of felt like I came out of this dark tunnel, and then everything just kind of, I could see everything. but then it ended on just kind of being blinded by light. Sort of like how, I guess, if I was to wake up one day and it's just everything is just absolute shit, but I guess throughout the day things can happen. Maybe the interactions I have with people might change how things turn out. But that's probably as much as I could get from it. It's always been a weird dream that I've had. It was a dream I had when I was back in high school. So about maybe 5 years ago, I want to say I had that dream. Yeah, it's an older dream, but I could never. I mean, I've got a lot of memories, a lot of dreams that have stuck with me for a long time. I don't know why. I can remember things even as far back as when I was 2.
Wow, really good memory.
Yeah, ironically enough, considering I had fallen off my brother's bunk bed on 2 separate occasions and had hit my head on a tile floor, I still retained decent enough memory, I guess. But yeah,
head trauma doesn't always result in memory loss. It can have other effects. Did you, just out of curiosity, did you have an experience that your memory got better after a bump on the head, or after 2 bumps on the head, or or had it always been good and it just didn't break that?
Maybe after the second fall, probably, I would think, because it's still, I can't really put the sequence of events back then all together in a row. I couldn't tell you exactly when such event happened. I just know it happened within that general time frame.
Okay. Do you have a pretty good visual memory in terms of, like, could you close your eyes and remember specific paragraphs from books you've read?
No, like I could remember, like
a photographic memory, they would call it.
Yeah.
You've always had kind of a photographic memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been good at really recognizing faces for whatever reason, but I could always remember like sceneries and events, pretty much.
That's interesting. I might do my own research, if I remember, about if there's a relationship between, say, what's called face blindness and photographic memory, whether there's a connection there. Just my own curiosity, kind of a tangent, but that would be interesting. If almost as if, what do they call it? There's kind of like every superhero has a weakness in a way. Like if you're going to have certain, almost like there's a limited bandwidth, and if you have an enhanced ability in one area, it'll be, you'll lose some other ability because you can only use so much of that bandwidth. What am I trying to say? Like,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
almost makes me think of Daredevil, where he lost his vision, but then he was able to kind of see the world sonically, like a bat. Yeah, there is something to that psychologically, or in terms of, say the what used to be called the idiot savant phenomenon. Someone who's just unbelievably amazing at one specific thing, and it leaves them with a lot of deficits in other areas of social interaction or other stuff like that. Again, on a tangent, this isn't specifically about your dream, but that's one thing I love about this type of exploration. It brings all of these ideas to mind. What does this mean? How does it work? And that's pretty much how science happens. People say, I wonder what that is, and then they go try and figure it out. So I love that process.
Yeah, it's kind of like I've always tried to focus, especially when it comes to dreams and certain memories. It's just like, because I think probably the earliest dream I can remember was I was probably, I know this is separate. We'll get back to the other thing, but
Sure.
Like the earliest dream I remember having was when I was probably about 3 years old, and I was playing with one of my favorite toy cars. I was in the living room with my mom, and I think she was reading a book. And for some reason, if my toy car had like went into like the sunlight that beamed through like a window, you would see like the beam of light through the window, and you would see like the shadow around that beam of light. Anytime my car would go over that light, I could no longer like pick it up. It would make me kind of irritated. I'm like, why can't I touch my toy car? Like this is dumb. It's in the light. I can't touch it. And then I would have to ask my mom for help to move the toy out of the light, and she was so confused. It's like, why can't you, touch it? I'm like, I don't know. I just can't. I don't know how to explain it to her. I'm like 3. Like,
Yeah.
Google Gaga, bro, I can't touch the car, bro.
This strong imagery from being almost pre-verbal. I mean, I know toddlers start to try to express simple needs with words that they can pick up at about 2 and 3 years old, but explaining concepts like, mother, the car is in the beam of light, of course I can't pick it up. It's trying to explain that is like impossible. But sorry. But it is interesting that you even had a dream in which light, a beam of light, had a strong focus. And then going back just to your initial comments that you started off the dream in the dark and it ended on this blinding light. So light and darkness, or the presence of light, or the effect of light, seems to be a theme running through your dreams, going all the way back to when you were 3 years old. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know how significant it is, but it is interesting. And you did mention something I was going to focus on as well. The idea that it starts in the dark and ends in the light. So picking up on that was fantastic. But sorry, I didn't want to stop you from reflecting on any other realizations. Was that the only one, or did you have some other sense now, having gone back through it? Some other meaningful elements that seem to relate or that resonate with you?
There wasn't really anything else that had made a whole lot of sense to me. Like the whole dream, and just in its nature, was confusing to me even still to this day. And I have always tried to search for like maybe an answer for that dream. Like one of the dreams I specifically picked out just because just the way the events happened is something that's so weird. And I've had a lot of dreams where the events are strange, but that one in particular is what I remember the most. Yeah, and it's fairly typical that the dreams with the most intense experiences stay with us. Certainly dreams that seem unimportant, we're going to forget about them. And sometimes dreams are just indigestion and random background noise. They aren't always significant. They aren't always a dream like this one does seem like it's definitely trying to tell you something. Like there's definitely something. The general theory is it's something you're processing in the background, something in your unconscious that is, especially if it sticks with you, it's something that is still an ongoing concern. That's more so with recurring dreams, like the same dream multiple times in a year, in a week, that kind of thing. That one tells you something is very immediately necessary to address. But this one is the idea that a dream would stick with you for years, and you could remember so many details of it. Tends to suggest some important understanding or realization, or it's something that you should understand or realize if you haven't yet, that kind of a thing. So just a little bit about your life at the time. Were there any concurrent events that were significant? Did you experience anything about 5 years ago that what you would consider significant? No, I wouldn't really say there were. I mean, my life for the most part has been fairly crappy. But I mean, that's for anybody could say that. And I always kind of hate saying that, my life has been complete shit, because at the same time, I know everybody else, either has it worse or can have it better. I don't know. It's just, I hate kind of explaining my own life in the fact that it's just, I know people have shitty lives. I don't want to just put my own experiences out there for the simple fact that, yeah, I know everybody's life shit, but everything I've ever explained about my own life has been majoritarily shit.
Gotcha. And that's something I think a lot of people struggle with, the idea that, what am I trying to say? That everybody has problems. And there are some people who feel their problems are much more important than other people's, and they love to talk about it, and they want to make themselves the center of attention. And then there's also folks that are a little more stoic about it. They're like, hey, everybody's got problems. What are you going to do? I got problems, you got problems. That is a very much a different way of looking at it. And I think in a lot of ways a much healthier way of looking at it, depending on how you go about it. Like if you've got really big problems and you're keeping it all to yourself, then it's not getting better. Maybe you can't handle it on your own, but it's definitely the flip side of that is making a big deal out of nothing and making it sound like your hangnail is worse than someone's amputated finger, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like for me, it's like I don't want to make a big issue out of something that's probably nothing, even if it seems big to me.
And that's the funny thing, because not funny, but like a very important angle on it is everything that happens to you is literally important to you. So trying to express that relative to other people's experiences, where we get into making judgment calls on that kind of stuff, trying to figure out in a sense, how much do I care about these things personally? How much do I care about sharing them? How much do I care about getting care to seek help or sympathy from others? And that's all very personal as well. Like I tend to be a person who likes to handle my shit on my own. I don't want to bother anyone. I don't feel good about bothering people. I don't feel good about being dependent. I don't want to ask anyone for a favor. I don't want to owe anyone a favor if I can avoid it. I don't want to make my problem someone else's. So it sounds like you're a little similar in that regard.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
okay.
You know, I got my problems. They got their problems. You know, and I'll try my best to help somebody with their problems. But I'm certainly not the best at it. I'll try to do what I can, and at the same time, I get the feeling like knowing that I'm not the best at solving people's problems. It's just like I don't want to push that on anybody else, because I just know the feeling of how uncomfortable it is not knowing how to help that person.
Okay.
You know, I would still, you know, try to do everything I can to help somebody, but, you know, I wouldn't want somebody to put too much energy into trying to help me with problems that I could probably easily fix on my own, and I'm just being a Debbie Downer kind of person, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty much how you explained it is, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, it's always good to hear, for me to give you an idea, or to give anybody an idea of what I'm trying to say and have them put it in their own words. And that's kind of what I do when we're giving each other feedback. Basically, this is why I can't do dream analysis in writing. Like I've gone on Reddit and a bunch of other places where people, at Facebook especially, people give 3 or 4 sentences and they're like, "What does it mean?" I'm like, and then people give answers, and I'm like, number one, that's not enough details. Number two, how do you know those answers are even in the ballpark? Because you can't ask the person the right questions in a kind of dialogue. That's my process. This is what I need, and I think that's the only way to do it right. My opinion. Maybe other people have a different approach, but I love that. And so, you know, you've had a rough life, and but you kind of downplay the significance of these personal struggles, mostly stoic, kind of leaning towards the self-sufficient side, and definitely don't want to push your problems onto other people, like make them responsible to fix things you probably could, but also not wanting to ask too much that puts someone in a position of saying I can't or won't, and that's awkward. Does that sound right? Yeah,
pretty much.
Okay, no, I mean, that personally resonates with me. That's exactly like we are of one mind on that. So getting back to the dream itself, we talked about it fading in from the dark, and it was already kind of in process, and you're heading down the street, and you have this sense of being on a mission. This suggests to me that you are, and consistent with what you've just said, you're someone who takes responsibility seriously. You didn't describe being there reluctantly. You weren't dragged into it. That you were gung ho. You were doing something you considered important, and you were doing it with other people. You weren't alone.
Correct. It was something that I had known was extremely important, and it was do or die. You know, it was going to have to get done one way or another. There was no way you could put this kind of thing off.
This something you had the sense this was something you were willing to give your life for, that important?
Yeah.
And it also strikes me that not only are you on a mission, and not only is the mission important, and not only are you dedicated, committed to fulfilling the mission, but you've, in your dream imagery, chosen to surround yourself with a supportive crew. You've got help. You've got, it's not all on you. But that isn't what I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning more towards the idea that because this mission was so important, not only do you have power armor, you've been given enhanced ability to follow through, to succeed, but you've got a team with you. So you're coming from it of the perspective of like, this is, what am I trying to say? Because this is so important, you're going to do it right. You're going to get the team together. You're going to get the tools necessary to get the job done. Does that strike a chord?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, it was more effective because it was already in a war, and we had this equipment. We were already specialized for the equipment that we had, and so they were sending us out for this specific task.
Yeah, gotcha. But in terms of the dream imagery, like I said, you weren't reluctant. You weren't alone. You weren't naked. I think these elements have some kind of, well, I think all these elements have some significance to the dream, and that's what I'm leaning towards. And maybe that's why I ask people if it resonates, because and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe you're telling me I'm on the wrong track there in terms of did you get more of a sense that it was just par for the course, that of course you'd be in armor, of course you'd be in a squad, that wasn't really a significant factor?
Yeah, that was too much of a significant factor. The significant factor was just really the importance of what we had to do. Okay.
Fair enough. Maybe think about that a little bit. And I could be rattling the wrong doorknob. But that is what struck me. So it's standing out that you very well could have been alone and naked, literally. You could have been insufficiently supplied to carry out the mission, and that would have given it a much different feel. But as it is, you were part of a team and well equipped, ready to rock, taking it seriously, well trained even, and it also seems significant to me that you were not technically the leader. There was one guy, he was only slightly ahead of you, just a little bit right ahead of you, and as in, like, he wasn't far ahead. You were on his heels, but he was definitely leading.
Yeah, we as part of a squad, the thing called cohesion, you want to stick together real close. Like, I'm no military person, I'm not, military experienced, but sure. It's just based off the dream and some of the things I've known through, like, just, reading books or watching videos, things that people have explained in their experiences, just things I've learned. But yeah, like the cohesion, you have to keep people tightly together. But yeah, the guy ahead was definitely leading.
And that struck me as significant as well, because in a sense, you were not the leader, so it wasn't all on you. This was not your squad. Technically, you were a member of the team. You were going to give it 100%, but you had a guide. You had someone calling the shots. You had the squad leader right in front of you, taking you where you needed to go. So there was this additional layer of, what am I trying to say? I guess I said it as best I could when saying it wasn't all on you. It wasn't like you're leading the charge. You're right behind the guy leading the charge. You're no slacker, but you had a commander taking you where you needed to go. You had a guide to a destination. Does that make sense? Yeah,
I get exactly what you're saying. Like, pretty much like I would be the fallback guy. Like, if it's sort of like the backbone, because I had the most armor. I had, the big ass fucking gun. But if I needed to, I could easily throw out commands if need be.
Did you get a sense you were kind of second in command in a way? You were the big boss, but you were his right-hand man?
Pretty much. Like, if anything were to happen, I would end up taking over and getting us the fuck out if I needed to.
Okay. Good deal. I mean, that's a very important position too. That honestly, I mean, not to make everything about me, but I feel the same way. Like, and and this is a funny way to say it. I make a good number two. I don't want to be Picard. I'm cool being Riker. Picard can take all the responsibility, but I got some things to say, and he should probably listen to me once in a while. And if he's not there, I can step up. But I don't want it all on my shoulders. I don't want the final decision every time necessarily. That's not. Does that resonate with you at all? That idea?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I can definitely hold my own if I need to. Like, I would, I don't want all the responsibility on me because it would be too much pressure for me if I'm doing everything all the time. But if something were to happen and I need to step up to the plate, I can truly do it.
Oh yeah. Sorry for the dead air again.
You're all good.
Yeah. So this is how we go. We just kind of start picking out the pieces that feel right, and I'm trying to go back and read my chicken scratch as well, glossing over a lot of things. So you'd been an ongoing war, destroyed area. I think there is something to the specific imagery as well. The idea that you weren't just on a mission in the woods. This was a bombed out city, an area that was not active conflict any longer, but it had been pretty well beaten up by previous fighting, and that you were heading, through an urban setting, say to a building, and this building was a church. I'm not. What am I trying to say? You'd mentioned in the past that you're not a specifically religious person. Would you describe yourself as kind of agnostic? You don't know?
Pretty much. Like, if I were to die and there would be a God, I wouldn't be surprised. Probably the thing that would surprise me the most is the type of God that it would be.
So the idea that there's possibly some kind of spiritual force above us, something more powerful than we are, but you don't know exactly what it is, and you're not an adherent to any religion in real life that describes a specific type of God and what it might want from you.
Correct. Like, there are some that I would completely disagree on, but at the same time, I'm the type of person that will still always leave just a little bit of room or skepticism for any kind of possibility that may be, just because, at the end of the day, we're only human. We don't know everything. We're still, we just can learn. That's all we can do. Yeah,
for sure. No, you're, to turn a phrase, you're preaching to the choir here. That's exactly where I'm at on a lot of these things. So I'm trying real hard not to put too much of myself into assumptions about your circumstance. So that would be one reason I would ask, what is when you think of a church, what is it? What associations do you have with that place, that building? And before you answer, I'm leaning towards the idea that why would the person or the object or the thing of importance that you're looking for be specifically inside a church? Wasn't in a factory, wasn't in a residential home. I think there's some connection between your concept of a church as a building or as a place relates to the idea of finding something of value in that place. What do you think about that?
I think I'm not entirely too sure. I think it just could be because of the fact that, while I don't firmly believe in any religion, I do always look through history, and history is sort of one of my favorite subjects. And just kind of reading what people have described in the past, and how a lot of things have always involved religion for the most part in the past, about when it came to wars and what people believed in and such things. But I guess that's really the only connection I could make, is that maybe it's just knowing through history how most wars have been fought due to differences in ideology.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty strong association too, to say, have an understanding of and that's absolutely true. The history of the world is humankind fighting each other over differences of opinion and territory and resources, but specifically ideology, specifically, it's hard. I don't know if it's always quite accurate to say religious wars, because there were a few where it was like this was commanded by a central church authority and it was declared to be a divine command that soldiers should march out and commit war in the name of the church. But in some sense,
I'm using religion, I guess, too broadly. But yeah, more along the lines of like ideology, what people believe in, and just like, the mindset of certain people. And, it's usually the mindset of people that bring them together. And it's these conflicting ideas and ideologies and everything like that usually can bring about, what's the word? Destabilization, I guess you could say. Something where, they'll eventually butt heads at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And the idea that, say, your concept of religion being a point of contention, a cause of conflict historically, being absolutely true. The idea that, say, having a church then be bombed out, a victim itself of war, as much as it is a cause of war. That's an interesting visual association as well. It's like maybe if you hadn't started shit, you wouldn't have gotten bombed. Did you get the sense that the war was of some ideological nature, or did you have any sense of the war at all? Why it was going on?
Initially going in, probably there was some sort of religious intent behind it, but I had still carried that same sentiment that I do now, where it's just like, I'm not entirely too sure, but the people I am fighting with and what I am fighting for aligns a lot more with my own personal beliefs, so I'm going to fight for that to protect the people that I care about the most.
Okay. So you had kind of a personal investment in the outcome of the war from an ideological perspective?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys had the feeling that the object or whatever you were looking for was going to influence the course of the war towards your success?
Yeah. Apparently it was supposed, just based off of what I could feel, it was supposed to be something very substantial.
Almost like the course of the entire war would turn on whether or not you guys could acquire this thing?
Pretty much.
Okay. I mean, that's a holy grail right there. That's a very important object. That is a mission worth giving it 100% and worth dying for, if need be, accepting that you might die in the course of it. Very, very personally meaningful motivation. Sorry, making more notes here. So I spent a lot of time trying to focus down on the specific actions, and maybe I never know. I never know when I'm going to come across something important, but I don't know that the exact method you guys used to clear the church was all that relevant. I had that feeling as I was asking that maybe I was dwelling too, and I do that all the time. I dwell on things that are, I think might be important, or I'm not sure, so I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I try to do a real detailed play-by-play, because that's in my mind. That's and to my process. That's the only way I can kind of get at some of these other things that actually do stand out. So I don't think I have a whole lot to say about clearing the church itself, other than the idea that you guys were a well-functioning team, that even without verbalizing commands, you each knew what you had to do. You knew how to look out for each other. It was a very well-functioning team. I think we'd already gotten that idea from from some other from some other discussion. I don't know if it's significant that you guys split up. Just from a tactical standpoint, I can make sense of that in terms of like, of course, that would probably be the best way to get it done. You go this way, we go that way, and we'll meet back in the middle once we've swept the area. Again, suggesting, just a very well coordinated and highly trained, very competent team.
You all right?
No, I definitely just every now and again I get that little piece of phlegm in the back of the throat and it starts making me feel even more froggy, and I get that vocal fry.
Yeah, I hate that. Oof. Sucks.
Yeah, no, I'm okay though. Thank you. I just every now and again I gotta clear my throat. Yeah, just reading back over my notes. I don't know that there's a lot of significance to the, what am I trying to say? The order of events that sometimes dreams, they give you some filler. They give you context for the situation. I don't know that it's actually significant that you cleared and then more people approached and you fought them, but before a second wave on top of that came, you all rushed into the middle to try and find the thing. That might just be kind of drama of the dream that gives you, it's playing out your fascination with that kind of military operation. This is what it would look like. This is how we would do it. There might be something there. Maybe on reflection, you'll tease something out. Maybe listening to it again, something will come to me. But I think that might be some of that filler stuff, which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, a lot of dreams I've had, especially as of recently, usually involves, anything involving like tactics, because I mean, I've always liked, military simulators. I've always been interested in, hold on. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the background noise or not. I hope that's not coming through. But yeah, like I've just always been fascinated with like technologies and stuff like that. So I'm guessing that's probably why that had played a certain role within the dream, just because that's usually something that fascinates me a lot.
Yeah, fair enough. And also the idea that you guys were behind enemy lines and that you defeated a force of maybe 100, 200 additional people. You guys were getting it done for just 5 guys. You were tearing it up. You were giving it your all, and you were doing it well. You described it as being very easy to defeat those people, as if they didn't pose a significant threat, or at least not anything you couldn't handle. That to me speaks to a sense of self-confidence, of personal competence. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. We had our set goal in mind, and we were just going to plan on finishing it.
Yeah, and in real life, that's kind of how it's your self-concept. You're generally someone self-confident. If you feel you are competent to handle problems and get things done, does that describe you in general?
Ironically enough, no. I've never been that much of a competent person, at least in real life. I mean, when it comes down to it, I will end up doing my best regardless of what the outcome is. If, like I said before, if it comes down to me, I will end up doing everything I can within my own power to do what I need to do to finish a certain task, if it need be.
Okay. Yeah, and sometimes dreams are, they've been described as wish fulfillment. Like, I cannot actually fly, but I would love to fly. And so in my dreams in the past, I have flown. And there's some people who theorize flying in dreams is an expression of self-confidence, but sometimes it's just wish fulfillment. I just want to fly. Therefore, I have an experience of being able to rise up like Superman and take off through the clouds. So it can be either way, and it depends on the other context and whatnot. So it is interesting to me that, say, you would have such an overwhelming representation of overwhelming ability to conquer these obstacles, including waves of enemies and highly efficiently clearing rooms and power armor and all this stuff. But it maybe relates to your sense of self-doubt that despite all of that, despite your best effort, you get where you're going, and what you're looking for is not there. You failed. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah. At the same time, it's just like, especially when it pertains to my life, anytime something fails, a lot of times it's just like a series of unfortunate events. Like, I could have probably had something done right, but something else happened, and it kind of just threw me off balance, threw me completely out of whack, and I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do, and I just kind of accepted fate. It's just like, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that speaks to the to noticing the bomb dropping, and you're like, well, fuck it, this is going to happen. There's nothing I can't run from a bomb. It's going to hit any minute. The planes are flying, the air raid siren's going. This is happening. I better just get used to the idea. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Excuse me. And then we move on to the very interesting part of the dream where, so you gave it your all, you fought for a worthy goal, you got all the way to where that goal was supposed to be accomplished, you couldn't get it done through no fault of your own. It wasn't there. You got in there. And that kind of speaks to the series of unfortunate events idea that sometimes I did my best, it failed anyway, not my fault, and it's all going to blow up, and I'm going to end up defeated or dead in this case. But the story doesn't end there. Now you're somewhere else. There's something to that in my mind, the idea that wasn't the end of your dream. That was, in a way, just the beginning. That was the entree into the real meat, in a sense. What do you think about the idea, that idea so far?
Yeah, I guess in a way, because, I've always tried and hoped for maybe finding some sort of answer within all the chaos, within all the bullshit that happens, and, if something fucks up, like I said, whatever happens. But I still wish that there was some sort of explanation, some sort of like light at the end of the tunnel that's gonna, maybe give me a bit of hope still, that I can still finish whatever it is I started. And like I said, when it came to that section of me being in that golden church hall, it wasn't that long of a sequence compared to everything else, but it was still substantial.
For sure, yeah, and I didn't mean to give it a larger time frame, but like, it's almost like everything that happened, not that it wasn't important, but that it was a prelude to this. And I mean, what am I trying to say? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this, and you related it yourself to, what am I trying to say? Restoring hope even after failure, looking for an answer, looking for guidance, looking for a path, looking to know the path forward even after a failure. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And the idea that you would have this quasi-religious figure. Now, you don't have to be religious in order to see God, so to speak, or have a spiritual experience out of something. Like, this might relate, and again, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but this might relate to the idea that getting this information is almost a kind of religious experience. It's almost as if a supernatural force is responsible for dispensing understanding Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like how it explained when it came to the sequence of events, they were supposed to happen the way they did, but there was something substantial enough that changed it, and it still brought about the end of something that wasn't really supposed to something that wasn't supposed to happen. But even though it happened, there's still a way to correct it. There's still a way to move on from that and hopefully push forward still.
Yeah, for sure. And that also relates to your experience with the 2 8-foot tall, swole as hell dude bros. Apparently they were chosen. I don't remember going back through my notes whether you said they had succeeded in what they were doing before they died or they had failed.
I don't know.
You didn't get a sense of why they were being honored?
Yeah, I don't know why they were there. I'm just aware of the fact that wherever they were, they had also died. But at the same time, they may have died at a separate point in time, and that we had just all came into consciousness at that time, like within that golden hall at the same time, even if it was a different time frame.
And the clothing they were wearing kind of suggested they were not your contemporaries, that they may have come from a different time period. That's the sense you got from it? Or
I want to say that, but it's weird because it still kind of gave off a different feeling. Like I still wasn't entirely sure.
Yeah.
Because the other guys, they still had like normal modern clothing. So I wasn't entirely sure why they were wearing that attire.
Yeah, and I don't know either, and I don't know that it's necessarily important, but it does mark them out as different. It does emphasize their physique, the idea that they're not wearing a shirt. They're wearing kind of almost throughout a lot of human history, we wore a lot of the same clothes. I mean, I think pants were invented in like the 1500s or something. Before then, it was just long stockings and skirts. Basically, everyone wore either a long shirt that got belted around. So that kind of clothing does suggest maybe a reference to your historical knowledge of war over the centuries, and that this kind of stuff has been going on for a long time, that these people are just warriors from another age, but you all come to the same place for knowledge, for guidance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And it may not be that significant, but making sense of the imagery, why did you see that? Why that specific thing? I think it is also significant that you don't know why they were given that special honor, and actually your feeling was that it was unfair. That like why wouldn't he call us up in front of him? Why are they getting special treatment? Especially if we were to say, go with the assumption that everyone was there because they didn't finish their mission. There was more to do. They were going to be sent back with new guidance. Why would those people that failed get called up for a special honor, but they're no different than you? It calls to mind that unfair, disparate treatment of people who should be otherwise the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah. See, now I'm thinking about it, they were still partaking within the same war as us, but that's as much as I can think about. Like, it was...
Okay.
Because they were getting different instructions, but it was still part of the same big plan that we were all a part of.
Okay. So you got the sense that they were on your side?
Yeah, they were still fighting the same war as us on our side, but in a different way.
Well, we wouldn't have gotten to that understanding without me throwing out an idea that was wrong. So that's fantastic. I'm happy to be wrong if it gets us where we're going. One thing this suggests to me, that feeling you had of unfairness, it might relate to the idea that you're all in the same war. You're even on the same side, and other people, it feels like their efforts are rewarded better. You talked about your life being a series of unfortunate events, and I think the idea that these two dude bros get the special honor of special instructions and being called up to the front suggests to me anyway, a not a resentment exactly, but an observation that other people have not had as many struggles as you have, haven't been confronted with as many dead ends, and that it's almost as if the powers that be, the roll of the dice, honored them despite their efforts, despite them not being any better than you or different than you, luck of the draw. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. That was my first impression, and we can explore it more, but we don't have to dwell on it either way, whatever you choose. But I think there's something significant in there about your worldview of looking at other people and saying, you know, I wish I had it that easy. I wish, or maybe again, resentment's the wrong word because I don't get that from you at all. But the idea that you see people celebrating their success when it's like random chance. It's like, you didn't actually do that. Maybe we're both fighting as hard as we can and they're competent as well, but they got lucky, and that feels unfair.
Yeah, it's like, as I explained before, it was like I had the sense of understanding why it were that they were being called up there, and I, you know, regardless, I had to respect that because it was out of my control. It's out of my decision. Clearly, this person who's up there knows what they're doing. So I, you know, as much as I would, you know, like to speak up, you know, it's just like I still have that feeling of I don't need to speak up. It's not my right. It's not my say.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that goes back to your other personality traits of just you reference in this place keeping your head down, like a bowed, respectful stance towards the situation and the person at the front of the room, and saying not your place to say is that you don't tend to complain about other people being honored or getting better results or getting special treatment. Although it hurts, you know, you still have that thing like, you know, why couldn't that be me? Why couldn't I get a break once in a while? And that's a reasonable. Does that resonate?
Yeah, like, you know, like it's the initial thought process. It's like, you know, because some people will hold that initial thought process like that's bullshit. Regardless, I should be the one up there. But me, it's just like I'll think that at first. It's like, you know, what the fuck, you know? I mean, I'm trying just as hard here. Why aren't I getting treated that way? But, you know, I'm keeping that thought to myself, and I just kind of think through it, and I'm just like, okay, well, there's this, there's that, there may be this reason, that reason. I shouldn't have a, you know, I just keep my mouth shut for right now, let things play out, you know, and let bygones be bygones kind of deal, like let it be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's in a very broad and general sense, that is the absolute healthiest way. That's why I kept saying it's not resentment. Resentment would be holding on to that thought and saying, screw those guys. They don't deserve it, and now I'm angry about it, and I'm not going to forget, and I'm going to have a bad day, or I'm going to take it out on someone else. You have a very healthy understanding that shit happens. Shit happened to me. It happens to everybody. I don't know exactly their circumstances. There's things I don't know. There's circumstances beyond my control. There's, I mean, a lot of religion in general is to answer the question, number one, what the hell is going on here? How do we get here? But why do good or bad things happen to good people? And a lot of the answers in religion is about making sense of that idea. So where was I going with that? Your answer in this dream for why did those people or other people in general reflecting on your life get better outcomes than you is that there are forces beyond your control, and this desire to believe that there's a plan, that everything is happening the way it's supposed to, the way it has to, that the things that were bad that happened to you had meaning, purpose. They weren't just random. You weren't just shit on by an uncaring universe. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There was more to it in my head related to the guys, but we might have dwelled on that long enough. I think it is very important though that you weren't ignored, you weren't glossed over. You weren't. What am I trying to say? The source of information, the person who knew what was going on, the person who had been, or entity or whatever, imbued with power to have an effect in the world, didn't leave you out. He turned to you and said, now it's your turn, and I'm going to give you this information. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. And the way he chose to do that was in a very reassuring manner that everything is as it's supposed to be. What you did was not wasted. What you've been through was did not lack importance. Your actions had meaning. And more than that, that even death was not the end of your mission or your ability to keep contributing, to keep trying, to keep seeking for success. Does that resonate?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a powerful desire to see almost kind of a quasi-religious figure bring you behind the curtain and say, don't worry about it, you're doing fine, keep your chin up. Not only that, I'm gonna make it so you can still have a positive impact. You can still, what am I trying to say? I don't know. I'm stuck on that idea. Even death is not the end. It just feels like I want to and play the outro music. Dun dun dun. It's just like
I get
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah. That some things have so much meaning they transcend death. I don't know where I'm going with that. I got a lot of ideas, but we can slide that off of there. Move over. Let me see here. It's going back over through some of my other notes. And then the resolution. So he told you what you needed to hear, and you had another sense of resignation of like, I get what he's saying. I know what's going to happen. I'm not coming back like I was, but I get to keep going. I get to keep seeing what's going to happen. And hopefully through this connection to something bigger than myself, I can continue to have a positive impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like, yeah.
Okay. And then you got to what, in a disembodied, out-of-body experience type of sense, experience your compatriots, your friends, your squad member, your team, come to terms with what happened to you, and reckon with how to move on.
Yeah, like how they didn't have all the recollection of what happened, but they still had the sense of duty, I guess you could say. Like they knew they still had a mission of a sort to complete, that they still had to move on, that they really couldn't waste too much time on just, they couldn't waste time on, mourning me, basically. It's just like, okay,
yeah.
It sucks, it sucks. It's an absolute tragedy, but we can't, sit here forever. We have to move on. And that's, like you said earlier, it's like, that's something that I would have wanted. I don't want you to, be nobody. I mean, a lot of people, as far as I'm aware, the people I've been around, anytime, they die, it's just like, I don't want you to dwell on it. Just continue living your life and move on.
Yeah. When I was alive, I didn't want to see you sad. I don't want to imagine you being sad because of me now that I'm gone. Get on with it. Yeah. That's how I would feel too. Like, don't mourn me for too long. Have a good cry, drink a beer, and get over it, and live your life. I want to see you happy from the other side. I want to see you continuing with important things. It seems to me like there is something significant in the fact that you were the one that came back deceased, that you were the one that came back separated from your group, unable to continue the mission with them as far as they knew, but not stripped completely of your ability to have a positive impact. And I think that relates somehow to the idea that you came back with information with a more complete understanding of what had transpired in the Golden Place that they didn't retain. If you think about that connection of being separated by understanding that they lack, what do you make of that?
I think, like, how would I put it? Like, they would know that, of course, what they would do still had some sort of importance, that something did inside them change. They wouldn't really remember everything that had happened, but they knew that something did, in fact, change. They knew that even though my physical body's dead, that I'm still going to be there, that I will still ensure their safety in what they need to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful concept throughout human history as well. The idea of our ancestors or our deceased friends and relatives watching over us to provide that guidance or additional support for carrying forward. Your ancestors smile upon you, that kind of a thing. I don't know why I'm relating that to now, like ancestral wisdom passed down through the ages, but also, I'm trying to focus in on that idea of feeling of the experience of being separated from your team, from your compatriots, from the people you were actively working together with to accomplish a goal, and that I think there's something related to that with the idea of retaining or possessing secret knowledge that they had largely forgotten. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but it calls to my mind the idea that learning something important that other people don't know tends to set you apart from them in a way that, like if you could explain it to them and bring them into your understanding, that would be fine. But there is a gap between a person who knows something and other people near you who don't. It creates a sense of distance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's something that's always been told to me too growing up. It's like, because my brothers, my family members have always been, really religious, either Christian or Catholic, and have always told me that kind of thing.
They've told you they feel distant from you because they think they know things that you don't, or they believe things that you don't accept?
Yeah, like they know that I can't fully believe what they believe in, but of course, they're still going to do what they can in terms of what they believe their power has to try and make things right.
Gotcha.
And also been told about like how, there's always guardian angels. Of course, that's, stuff that's always been told throughout history as well. There's guardian angels, stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that you were told those things, therefore you dreamed about them, but what do we dream about? We dream about things we've seen or thought or felt, anything we've ever experienced in our life. That's the only way anything can ever end up in our dreams. It has to be experienced on some level, or we have no reference to it. Like, imagine a color you've never seen. It's impossible. So it has to be some our dreams are always references to experiences in some manner. How many siblings did you have, or do you have? Sorry.
My family tree is kind of complicated. My closest siblings, I would say, are my brothers because they came from the same mom, though they have a different father. They had, I think, there's 3 brothers, but 2 of them, they had joined the military before. One used to be a pilot, or not a pilot. He used to be in the Air Force, I believe. He used to work on planes and drones. The other one was a foot soldier. He made it to like staff sergeant, but he's Catholic. So that's that.
Okay.
But I don't really keep connections with family all too much. I've never really kept connections with anybody for extended periods of time. I usually kind of just, not that I really shut everything out. It's just that I don't really go out of my way to communicate with people unless, they want to communicate with me.
Fair enough. Yeah. Were you more involved in the lives of your siblings 5 years ago when this dream happened?
No, I was not.
They had already kind of separated themselves from the main family. Were they older than you by a bit?
Oh yeah, by a substantial bit.
Okay.
Yeah, when I grew up with just my mom, like I said, my family tree and family in general is just it's a big mess.
It's okay. Yeah, I don't want to pry too much. Yeah.
No, you're good. But yeah, only recently have I actually tried to make a little bit of connections with them, but nothing I believe in terms of family would be too related to the dream.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, is because in the dream you've got military imagery, you've got religious imagery, and you have this family connection to siblings that have been in the military and that are pretty highly religious. Does putting those pieces kind of together, does that inspire any thoughts about looking back on the dream and what it might have been referencing, trying to tell you?
No, I can't really make too many connections to it.
Okay.
I mean, I can see how the connection can be made, but I can't, in terms of how I felt about the dream and the way things have happened. Yeah. I can't.
No, fair enough. And a lot of these things can be not directly related. I mean, it isn't a one-to-one correlation. It isn't like you dreamed a specific thing because of a specific person. It can be, but not always. But I think there's something to that. What am I trying to say? The idea that because these people were important figures in your life, whether you were close to them or not, in terms of a family bond, and their path of military and your fascination with history and military, and your, I don't want to say struggles, but your how you conceptualize or how you've processed religious questions and matters of faith. I think all of that ties in somehow, because that's literally the imagery of the entire dream, is all of those concepts kind of bundled together, and the idea of seeking to accomplish something important that is worth risking your life and even giving your life, and having that result in coming away from somewhere special with significant understanding. And even if you returned and you were, say, separated from your squad mates, who I don't think represent your brothers specifically, but other people that share your mission or who are on a similar path, that you would come back separated from them by the experience, or by the difference in the results of your experience, and be removed from, there's something significant to the idea of being a ghost, a watcher with limited influence, but still the ability to contribute. That you're on the same path, but you're not with them. You're following, you're watching.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
I think there's something there. Yeah. I use a lot of words because I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get exactly where you're going with it.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could just be with the fact that, because I was separated from my brothers at a young age, because, again, they did have a different father. My mother had tried to take custody over them. She wasn't a suitable mother for them, however. And she actually tried to use California laws to try and take them from their father and try to take complete custody over them, even though my brothers really resent our mother. And I was kind of like the only person. It's kind of weird how my life is. Like when it came to even both my dad and my mother, like my mother, she was not a picture perfect mom. She had very, very, very many flaws. I won't go into too much detail, but at the end of the day, my brothers ended up resenting her a lot for it. and I was like the only person or the only child that actually, kind of loved her, because it was she never did perfect with me either. I still have a lot of issues that came along with her,
Sure.
but I still feel that, she did everything that she could to try and correct her wrongdoings. And I'm kind of in the same boat with my father at the moment, because my siblings on my father's side don't want anything to do with him either. Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like I kind of get the feeling that
complicated history of family dysfunction.
yeah, pretty much.
That is, honestly, that is par for the course. But no, but your experience is, and I don't mean to minimize it, but we're all dysfunctional. That's what I'm saying. But the idea that you've been through some shit, and it was serious, and it sounds like you've survived it fairly well. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still here.
Well, true. You're not dead yet, and hopefully not anytime soon. But no, but just your personal impression of, like, some people are just destroyed by family dysfunction and their trauma in the past. But you sound like you came through it pretty well. Like you were able to make sense of it, put it in perspective, get your head on your shoulders in a way that lets you look to the future and continue struggling towards better things, and not dwelling in the past and giving up hope.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I still have my issues. I still do kind of dwell in the past on a few things.
Sure.
But yeah, I still try to do everything I can to do whatever I can within my own power.
Yeah.
Like I kind of had the feeling with my mom how, like, I should, like, in a sense, like, I had to be something for her to feel like she still did something right within her life. And I feel the same when it comes to my father. Like, I'm still kind of, in a sense, sort of like the last, I don't want to say like his last hope to feel like he's done something meaningful, but like, something where he doesn't feel like he's completely failed.
Gotcha. You want to make good so that they don't each feel like they just screwed up all their kids and it was a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's a good reason to want to succeed, to kind of honor your parents in a way, and to help give them a good sense of themselves. Hopefully you're also pursuing life for its own sake and your own enjoyment and your own path. I think you can definitely do both at the same time. But living for others isn't always the best way to go. It's a necessary thing, I think, sometimes, to dedicate yourself to, I don't know, in some ways that's what marriage is supposed to be. The idea of now you're living for, and not on behalf of, but in partnership with and to the benefit of the person closest to you, mutual benefit, that kind of thing. And to be able to give that to other people. Who are we without other people? We're just, why do anything? Why stay alive? What's the point of any of it? So that's a big deal. Well, we've been going almost 3 hours. I appreciate your time, and I don't want to rush you out. Of course, I do have an appointment to get to in a few minutes.
You're good, man.
I do need to wrap it up, but I think we've, a lot of people. I say that a lot, but some folks have a concept of this as like, we're going to nail it down. We're going to get one specific answer. It all means X. It all means this. Sometimes we get that. Sometimes we get something very specific, but a lot of the time it's just an exploration of why did this happen? Why did I see it that way? Why did the story play itself out? How does that relate to what I was experiencing, what I want, what I don't want, what I hope for, what I'm worried about? And hopefully you've come through this with a better understanding of those whys and hows. How do you feel about it? Yeah,
I definitely feel like I've come out with a bit more understanding in terms of dream, and I'll even myself a little bit.
I hope so. Yeah, and honestly, if you do what I say, like when you're brewing coffee, you got to let it percolate. I just let these ideas percolate in my background. We may not have hit a final answer. We may have hit, and I think we did hit, a lot of very important elements, but I think it'll take more time to let it percolate, and even more connections will come to you. And I'd love to hear back from you. You can always, we can set up another interview, or we can you can go to the comment section and respond to my debrief, which this probably won't be up till tomorrow because I got an appointment. But yeah, and hopefully your understanding of this is just beginning in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope it's been an enjoyable process and a beneficial one in the long run.
Yeah, it was pretty good talk, and I kind of enjoyed it.
Okay, good. I always hope it's at the very least entertaining. When we were hitting about like the 2-hour mark, I was like, is he getting bored here? Should I shut up and just move on with this? I didn't know.
No, you're good, man. Like I said, I'm off till like Friday for right now, so.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. Well, then you can look forward to putting this up and listen back to it if you wish, or go listen to some of the other folks. I don't know. You said you have kind of a short attention span, so you might not listen to yourself talk for 3 hours.
Yeah, it might be hard. I'll probably skim through it, but yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely check it out.
Good deal. Well, I think we'll just wrap it up there, and I will thank you, Shaggy, for talking to me. I honestly, myself too, I enjoyed the process. I loved it. I love getting inside people's experience, especially in this dream realm where anything can happen, and it's entirely possible. Absolutely nothing makes sense, and sometimes we just go for a ride and see what happens. So I'll go ahead and sign off then. I'll thank everyone for listening to another episode of Dreamscapes.